Okay. We'll start out bombing. That's how I usually like. I was going to lose a lot of weight for this special, and I didn't. I don't know. I found out about this 2 months ago. I was like, I'm going to just really eat healthy and exercise. And then I was eating pizza last Saturday. And I was like, I think I procrastinated too long. And then I got food poisoning on Tuesday. I didn't eat for 3 days, and it turns out this is it. This is the best I've looked in years, okay? My wife is a feminist, and so am I, she told me. When we started dating, she was taking a gender studies class, and she had just reached the point in her class where she started to blame me for all the bad stuff other men have done for centuries. She was like, you gotta stop using the word girl. I'm a woman. Stop calling me a girl. Stop calling women girls. And I go, I want to sleep with you very badly. I'll do anything you say. I'm willing to evolve as a human being if you let me see you naked one time. You know, like a feminist would say. And I did it. I stopped calling women girls, and I stopped offending people. You guys can take this home with you, by the way. It works almost all the time. The only time I have a problem is when I'm walking my dog, and she finally takes a shit, and I go, oh, that's a good woman. People do not like that, it turns out. I'm like, hey, she's 35 in dog years. I thought I was playing it safe. My wife goes, you gotta stop using the word bitch. And I go, I would never use that word to your face. Are you crazy? And she goes, and you can't use the C word. That's the worst one. And I go, I don't even use that word. She goes, good. That's our rule. We don't use the C word. And then my wife left college. She entered the workforce. She had coworkers for the first time in her life. And I want you to know, the rules on the C word changed very quickly, okay? My wife started to use that word so often that I got offended by it. Because she's one of these people, she'll go to a restaurant and she orders a dish with 7 ingredients, and then she substitutes 5 of the ingredients. And then she gets mad at the restaurant for giving her bad food. And at the end of the meal, the server comes to the table and she'll be like, how was your food? And my wife has an angry look on her face. She goes, actually, I didn't like it very much. And I'm like, I think the C word is customer today. But she started to use that word so often that I feared for our safety. She was putting us in danger on a regular basis, okay? One day we were at a bar, this woman bumped into my wife, spilled a little bit of her drink. Not enough to be mad about. But I could see my wife was ready to let a C word fly. So I wanted to cut her off at the pass. I was almost too late. She goes, Casey, can you believe this? And I go, hold on. That woman's boyfriend is enormous. That man could rip me in half with his bare hands. And we're feminists now. You're gonna have to fuck that guy up, okay? The other day I drove by a bus stop. There was a woman at the bus stop with a stroller. Her and her child were the only people at the bus stop. And then I was sitting at the red light when the bus pulled up, and on the side of the bus, there was a full-length advertisement, the whole length of the bus, enormous letters, said, babies can be loud, babies can be annoying. Whatever you do, don't shake your baby. That's the best advertisement I've ever seen in my entire life. First off, nobody needs to hear that more than a mother who's about to take her infant onto a public bus, okay? But also, what I realized that day is that if they have to advertise to new parents to not shake their own children, shaking a kid has to feel incredible. Some of you don't like this, you're barking up the wrong tree, okay? I'm not the one shaking these kids. I'm Casey McLain, not Casey Anthony, okay? You're clapping for her, I like that. That's a pretty gnarly comedy audience to be clapping. to be on her side of that one. Listen, I'm not the one shaking these kids, but somebody's doing it, and they love it so much that we have to devote millions of dollars in advertising to try to get them to stop. All right, this is a tough time for you to find this out, but I have 2 young children at home. For now. Also, now that I'm a parent, if you can't relate to wanting to shake your own child to death, you're not involved enough in your kid's life, okay? If you've never gotten home and had a child talking to you while you cook dinner and thought, this would be a lot simpler if I could see the life leave my child's eyes right now, you need to step it up as a parent, okay? I like being a dad. It's not obvious yet, but I do like being a dad. We have a 4-year-old at home, and then 8 months ago, I was at this comedy club. My wife went into labor early with our second baby girl, and I'm happy to tell you we have a healthy 8-month-old baby at home. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, thank you. She was a mistake, if I'm being honest. But some of you, by the way, were very apprehensive to clap there because you heard the rest of the joke, and I get that. This kid was a mistake, and I want you to know that mistake has a different meaning than accident. Listen, we had this kid on purpose, is what I'm saying. Which 2 kids on purpose, same lady. I don't know what your families are like, that's the record in my family, okay? No one's touching that record for decades. I'm like the Babe Ruth of my family. But we fucked up, is what I'm saying, okay? And people romanticize when you have a kid on purpose, like it takes away all the stress of having a child. One of my friends, he's having a child with a woman he slept with one time. The night he met her, they're not together, and in a couple months, they're gonna have to learn how to co-parent. And he goes, Casey, at least you've never had to see a positive pregnancy test and think, oh no, I ruined my entire life. And I go, buddy, you could not be more wrong. Not only did I think it, I thought it before the first one, I thought it in between, I thought it before the second one. I think it almost every day right now. There's a low hum of I fucked up in my life every day. The only difference between me and him is that he has someone else to blame. He broke a condom. My wife and I downloaded an app so we would know the exact day she started ovulating. No one gives you credit for a mistake that you put on a Google Calendar in advance, okay? I do like the 4-year-old's cool. I like her. She's fun. At the beginning, as a new dad, you feel very useless. My wife had all these new jobs and responsibilities, and all I could really do to help was just change diapers. So I changed every diaper I could. My wife barely touched a diaper the first 6 weeks of our daughter's life. I was changing my daughter's diapers. I changed other kids' diapers. I changed a couple adult diapers. There were dogs in my neighborhood running around with Pampers on, okay? If you put a bare ass in front of me, I'm putting a diaper on it. That was my rule. I do not discriminate. We went to a party, and I was hanging out with the angry dads at the party. That's who you hang out with now, is just like angry, bitter dads. And I got up to change a diaper, and they started making fun of me. One of the dudes, one of the husbands, he's like, whoosh, you know that fucking noise? He goes, what are you guys have like a scorecard, and if you don't change this diaper, you're gonna be in trouble with your wife? And I go, fuck you, dude. My daughter's not a chore wheel. If she needs her diaper changed, I'm her parent too. I will change her diaper. And then last night, my wife woke me up at 3 a.m, and the 4-year-old, she's potty trained now, but she's scared to go to the bathroom on her own. My wife's looking at her in the monitor. She goes, Casey, you have to go up. She has to go to the bathroom. She's crying. It's been me the last 3 nights. I'm exhausted. If you don't take her, she's gonna piss the sheets. And I go, babe, you're just gonna have to wash those sheets. I can't deal with her at 3 a.m, okay? That's not a good time to be a parent. I clocked out at midnight. We need a union in this house, okay? These are not fair working conditions. I've lost enthusiasm for being a great dad, but I tried so hard at the beginning, like any new hobby. I tried so hard. That's how I get into shit. I dive in head first. Like when we had our daughter, I was taking, like, you would have thought, if you looked at the camera roll on my phone, you would have thought my dog and my hobbies died on the same day. Because there were no more pictures of those. It was just all videos and pictures of my kid. The dog's still alive, by the way. Hobby's still dead, but the dog is still alive. That's how I get into stuff. I dive in head first. Like, I used to brew beer at home, which can't be a surprise to anyone with eyesight in this room. And when I started brewing beer, I got into it very fast. I bought like $1,000 worth of equipment. I watched every YouTube video. I started reading books for the first time since 2004. I made it part of my identity before I had brewed a single batch, okay? And then I brewed 25 of the shittiest batches of beer in the history of alcohol. But I don't have to stop identifying as a home brewer. People come to my house and they're like, Casey, are you still a home brewer? And I go, absolutely. And they go, can I try something you brewed recently? And I go, absolutely not. And they're like, why? This seems like a weird thing to lie about. I'm like, let's not worry about that. Let's look at all these pictures and videos that I took at the beginning of me trying really hard. And I'm hoping I can use that same kind of evidence at a custody hearing in a couple years. You pulled back there, I will say. I was shaking a baby 2 jokes ago, and you were like, we're on board with that. That's fine. But divorce, no. We are out on divorce. It's complicated being the father of a daughter in 2024 because I live in a neighborhood that's full of these people. We used to call them hipsters, but terminology changes. I don't want to offend people. I want to call people what they want to be called. I think we're supposed to call them hypocrites now. Have you met these assholes? I live within walking distance of a business that used to be a black barbershop, and now it's a restaurant that specializes in avocado toast. And even though they specifically priced out a black business, they at least had the decency to put a sign on the door with a black power fist that says strength and diversity. And I walked in that restaurant the other day and I saw all my neighbors in there eating avocado toast. If that restaurant gets their strength from diversity, these are the weakest motherfuckers I've met in my entire life. That restaurant had the diversity of a Klan meeting, okay? But my neighborhood, people are very politically vocal. My wife and I are not those people. My neighborhood's just full of people with green hair and no kids that think they should be able to tell me how to raise a daughter in 2024. The other day I was walking my daughter down the street and this woman, she pops out of the bushes. She goes, why is your daughter wearing pink? Not all girls have to wear pink. And I go, you know what? You're completely right. I'm so sorry. I tried to put her in a beige jumpsuit this morning. I think this kid's a bigot, to be honest with you. She goes, what are you doing to make sure your daughter has access to a STEM career? And I'm like, I'm all over this. All I talk to her about is science, technology, the other ones. I think I might be the wrong parent for this job. But the other day, I was having what would have been an adorable parenting morning with my daughter. She had her head on my chest. We're watching cartoons together. I'm drinking coffee. She's drinking milk. And she's talking to me because she's 4 years old and her vocabulary is constantly expanding. And every time she learns a new word or phrase, she just repeats it to me over and over and over and over and over again. And while we were watching cartoons and she was talking to me, I started to look at my phone because everything this kid says is still so fucking boring. And I need 2 screens if I'm gonna put up with this piece of shit, okay? And an unfortunate thing happened that morning that I'm not proud of, and it was not on purpose. It's important you know both those things before I admit to what happened. I dropped my phone on my daughter's head. She wasn't injured. I'll spoil that part. She was not injured, but she was startled, and at first I didn't know. I was just mortified that I might have hurt my baby girl. So I pick her up, and I'm examining her for bumps, bruises, cuts. I put her through concussion protocol because she's sobbing like she was injured. And at a point, I realize she's not injured, but she keeps crying for a very long time. At a point, I realize she's milking it. These are fake tears. And eventually I had to set her down and go, listen, kid, we gotta fucking move on. Like, I know you feel trapped in this trauma, but you're 4 years old. You're not making memories right now. Put your shoes on. We're late for daycare. Please, get moving. And we leave for daycare. And when I bring my daughter out in the morning and everyone's leaving for work, it's like the hills have eyes in my neighborhood, okay? I bring her out and everybody's heads just turn in creepy unison to see what I'm doing to ruin this child. And that morning I was putting her in her car seat and she looks up at me with everybody watching and she says to me innocently, but loudly enough for everybody to hear, she goes, "Dada, why did you hit me because I was crying?" And I go, no. That is not how it happened. No. She has no idea what she's saying. She's so young. Also, shut the fuck up. No. I didn't hit her because she was crying. She was crying because I hit her. You're right. That does not sound better. Okay. No. Point taken. Keep your mouth shut. We can't afford to move. Yeah, I'll see you later. And then we leave for daycare. And my daughter is obsessed with the American flag right now, which sounds like patriotism. This is no patriot, I assure you. We have no flag up at our house. No American flag, no communist flag, which I think those are the only two options in 2024, by the way. We have no symbols of pride up at our house at all. That's how committed we are to not giving our opinion in our neighborhood. We don't even put Christmas lights up, okay? We made that deal with our neighborhood a couple years ago. We won't give our opinion, you don't break our windows. We shut the fuck up, our windows stay intact. And the American flag is not a popular symbol in my neighborhood, especially when a dude that looks like me in my neighborhood gets really into the American flag. Nobody in my neighborhood is like, oh yeah, that guy has a healthy relationship with patriotism. Nobody looks at me and goes, we should give him the benefit of the doubt. If I buy one Old Navy shirt, they're like, where were you on January 6th, motherfucker? We have some questions we'd like you to answer with our friends at the FBI. And that morning, we're leaving for daycare, and it's not a popular symbol in my neighborhood. The house across the street from us, they have a huge sign made by hand, covers their whole window, says protect reproductive rights. The house next to them, an enormous pride flag. And then there's one dude, huge flagpole, huge American flag. He still has a Trump Pence 2020 sign in his front yard. He has a bunch of vehicles in his yard. They all say, "Let's go Brandon" on them in sticker form. And I've lived there long enough to know that a lot of those vehicles were not running when Joe Biden got elected, okay? At some point, this man started to decorate his decorations. And that guy is not popular in my neighborhood. If my neighborhood wasn't full of vegans, that guy would be cleaning eggs off of his house every day. And that morning, I'm driving my daughter to daycare, and she sees this man raising his American flag and cleaning egg white substitute off of his front door. And she gets so excited to see that flag, she just points and screams. She goes, "American flag! American flag!" And I'm like, that is not inside the car volume. Please relax. But she doesn't know how to meter her excitement. She gets excited anytime she sees that flag. It doesn't matter the context. It could be in front of a courthouse or on a stripper's lower back. It makes no difference to her, okay? In fact, the other day, we were walking, my wife and I took her to a farmer's market, and when we were walking into the farmer's market, we saw this man standing at the entrance wearing a leather vest because he wanted everybody in the world to know that he owns and operates a motorcycle. And then he had all these scary patches on his leather vest that told us that he was either gang affiliated or cosplaying Sons of Anarchy in his 50s. Either way, my wife and I did not want to interact with this man. So we're walking into the farmer's market, holding both of our daughters' hands, eyes pointed directly at the ground, traditional Pacific Northwest posture. When we get close enough to this man for my daughter to see, she notices that he has an American flag patch on his leather vest. She rips her hand out of mine. She points at this man with the same enthusiasm as any other time. She screams. She goes, "American flag! American flag!" My daughter does not pronounce American flag very well. She actually pronounces American pretty well, if I'm being honest. When she says American, she has the diction of a newscaster, okay? But when she mispronounces flag, the way that she does, omitting what I now know is the most important consonant in the word flag. It looks like my wife and I trained her to do that shit for our entertainment. And I'm just grateful that in 2024, American gay people have not adopted the American flag as a symbol of pride. Because if they had, my daughter would be guilty of dozens of hate crimes. And instead, she just made one gang member question his sexuality. And I could live with that, to be honest with you. I don't want to bring the mood down. We're having fun. My wife was recently diagnosed with an ear infection. We have a GoFundMe if you want to contribute after the show. Every little bit helps. She got diagnosed with an ear infection. I drove her to the doctor. When we were leaving the doctor, she was reading her diagnosis. She goes, "Casey, is pus spelled with one S or two S's?" My wife is an 11th grade English teacher. And I go, "Babe, I think it's one S." And she goes, pretty sure it's two S's. So then I just let my wife Google puss. I can't stop her. I'm a feminist. She's a strong, independent woman. My hands are tied. But I think back on that moment all the time because that day changed our relationship. That's one of our favorite things to do together now. Guys, I've been Googling puss since the 90s. I've been Googling puss since before Googling was a verb, okay? I've been Googling puss since before Google was a company. I used to ask Jeeves for puss, okay? All right. Do you guys remember last year when Alex Jones said that masks were going to come back in October? Do you remember that? Anyone? No? Was anyone worried about that? No. Did anyone want him to come back? No. Oh, I did. Sorry. Not because I don't care about masks politically. I wrote a joke about him. I didn't write any COVID jokes during COVID, and then I wrote a mask joke in late 2023, and I was like, I'll inconvenience the whole world to make this joke work for a little while. That's my stance on masks. I don't care if you wear a mask. I don't think anyone in here is wearing them. You're all Republicans. That's fine. I don't care if you wear them or don't wear them. I don't think we should make fun of people that wear them, but if you don't want to wear one, that's my stance. What I am fascinated by is when I see two people who are obviously in a couple, and one of them is wearing a mask, and one of them is not wearing a mask. I want a fucking documentary on these people, okay? Because what I see is two people who disagree on something so fundamental to life in 2024, but they manage to coexist. They make it work. It's kind of beautiful, to be honest with you. We need more of that as a country. Just these two people who so obviously hate each other's guts, okay? Two people where one of them is hoping to kill the other one wants to survive longer. Either way, they want to fuck someone else at some point, and it's just a question of the timeline that it falls on. I guess it's only beautiful to me from your reaction. Just two people who would so obviously get divorced if they could afford to pay their mortgage on their own. I come from a mixed political family, which is my way of saying my parents are divorced. That's what that means in 2024. Mixed political means they got divorced a long time ago. And I'm happy that they were mixed politically. I mean, this is the deal. I got to love people from both sides of the political aisle. They hate each other, I want to make that clear. But I got to love people from both sides, and that's beneficial because I've navigated life a little better because of that. And my dad he's a mainstream conservative, and he grew up his whole life near Seattle, which in Seattle they would call a mainstream conservative a Nazi. Right. And my mom is a mainstream liberal. She lived her whole adult life near Seattle, which in Seattle they would call a mainstream liberal a Nazi. But my dad, he's conservative. He's never really been able to, like, do it, you know? Like, in Alabama, they have the Dukes of Hazzard. Like, they're fucking doing it. Here, they would be like, we need the Duchesses of Hazzard first, actually. My dad can't really you can't be an outspoken conservative and live near Seattle. And so he's had to pick his spots. Some of you probably feel this also. He has to pick his spots where he can express being conservative. Like, he won't get progressive lenses in his glasses. That's the stance he's willing to take publicly, okay? And I go, Dad, what about bifocals? He goes, Casey, that goes against nature. And he goes, Casey, anyway, I have an astigmatism. I go, I think that's a spectrum, Dad. I don't think we're supposed to say that anymore. And I go, Dad, I'm considering getting transition lenses. He goes, get the fuck out of my house right now. All right. I can't tell if you hated that or liked it, to be honest with you. I'm 37 years old, which nobody gives a shit. No one cares when you turn 37 because nothing changes. I'm just too old to get my first tattoo now. Because when you see a 19-year-old guy getting his first tattoo, you look at that guy and you go, oh, that's youthful rebellion. That's cool. I've been through that. When you see a 37-year-old guy getting his first tattoo, you go, oh, that guy's getting divorced. I've been through that. I had my first 2 surgeries of my life in the last calendar year. It took 37 years to get 2 surgeries. I got my wisdom teeth removed and I got my tonsils removed. Woo. People do not respect those as adult surgeries. And when you schedule them, they're like, it's going to be way harder to have this done in your 30s than it would have been earlier. And I thought it was because my body is older and worse at recovering. Turns out the reason is every time I tell someone that I'm getting that surgery, they're like, so what? I got that done at 14, asshole. Like, what, do you have to lay around and eat ice cream for a couple weeks? Looks like you got a little bit of a head start on that, if we're being honest. This doesn't feel like a huge lifestyle change for you. I got my wisdom teeth removed first. I went in for the tonsillectomy. They had questions I was not prepared for. First, she goes, sir, have you ever had surgery before? And I go, yeah. I got my wisdom teeth removed a couple months ago. She goes, I do not respect that as an adult surgery. And then she goes, sir, have you decided how you plan to deal with this surgery emotionally? And I go, what the fuck do you think I'm having removed today? Are you grafting something else onto my body? Did I get a deluxe package? I'm gonna need to see the chart before you put a knife in. Let me see the chart. Let me see the chart. The surgeon came in, he saw I was agitated. He goes, sir, before I put you under anesthesia, do you have any more questions? I go, yeah. How long after I have this surgery until I can work again? And he goes, oh, dude, I'm gonna have to check the book. I've never done this surgery on someone with a job before. I ran into this guy I went to high school with. We're from the same graduating class. He's also 37 years old. We're having lunch together, catching up. He goes, oh, Casey, you caught me on a tough week. I had to learn to wipe my ass with my left hand all week because I injured my shoulder doing CrossFit. And I go, buddy, it's funny you say that because last year I had to learn to wipe my ass with my left hand for a week because I pulled a muscle in my back while I was wiping my ass with my right hand. Millennials are not the best generation, okay? And it wasn't that long ago that men were better. My grandpa, 2 generations ago, that man fought in the Korean War, came back to America, he got a job in a factory, and he worked at that factory for 40 years. He had perfect attendance for 40 years. Every day he would go into work, every night he would come home and drink a 5th of black velvet whiskey to himself. And then show up to work the next day on time, like clockwork. He didn't miss a day. And then he went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, hey, you gotta cut back on the booze. You're drinking way too much. This is not healthy. But my grandpa did not cut back. He quit drinking that day. He never had another drop of alcohol the rest of his life. And he didn't need rehab or some 12-step program. He just took it out on his family for the next 40 years. Like a man, okay? And me, I went to a restaurant the other day and I ordered a White Claw with my meal. And when the server got close enough for me to see it, I realized she was bringing the wrong flavor. She gets close enough to hear me and I go, ooh. My grandpa never made that fucking noise, okay? Not once in his life did my grandpa say, ooh. I go, I hate to do this, I'm so sorry. That's a pineapple White Claw. I ordered a mango. My grandpa never heard of those fucking fruit, okay? If it wasn't red meat or red apples, he didn't touch that shit until the day he died. I'm 37, I have a look now I've discovered, which this is it, by the way. I've also noticed many of you have cultivated this exact same look. Very popular look in the Pacific Northwest, and it works here. And I know this because I walked into a grocery store the other day and an attractive woman approached me, which at my age and weight does not happen very often. And she started the conversation off kind of sexy. She fooled me. She goes, hey. Like that little bit of vocal fry, it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I was very excited to see where this interaction was gonna go. And she goes, hey, I'm looking for a great IPA for my husband. You look like you drink a lot of IPA. Could you recommend a great IPA that I could bring to my home where you are not invited to give to my husband? I walked 15 feet further, the same store. An attractive man approached me, which I'm not bisexual, but at my age and weight, I can't be picky, okay? I'm taking flattery from anyone giving it at this point. That dude was wearing a suit. I found out I'm a gold digger that day. That suit did it for me, okay? That was quite an ego boost. I was not aware of the class of gentlemen that I was able to attract. But he started the conversation off considerably less sexy than the woman. He goes, hey, buddy. The hair on the back of my neck, completely flaccid, okay? He goes, hey, buddy, I'm looking for the best beef jerky in this store. I know you know where it's at. Take me to it right now. I'll clarify for you guys, I don't work at that fucking grocery store, okay? I've never worked at a grocery store in my entire life, but those two people thought I looked so much like I work in either the beer aisle or the butcher shop that they could spot me off duty like a plainclothes police officer in that grocery store. I found out I have IPA face and beef jerky body that day. But those two people had something in common when they left the store that day. They were two satisfied customers. I knew exactly what they wanted and took them to it. I did my part for small business that day. I am trying to improve my look a little bit. You can't tell, I understand. My wife and I, we recently got gym memberships to Planet Fitness. Yeah, because it's the cheapest gym on the planet. And you guys can see what I'm willing to invest in my personal health. Almost nothing. I need a low-risk option, okay? And the sales pitch at Planet Fitness matches the price. Like, we walked in, my wife is already talking to a trainer, and he goes, for $10 a month, you could use this one Planet Fitness location, but for only $22 a month, you could get our Black Card, which means you could use any Planet Fitness location across the country. My wife goes, I'm probably fine with one location, but my husband, he travels a lot for work. Maybe he would use the Black Card. This guy looks at me. I'd like to remind you that he and I have not interacted to this point. He sums me up in his mind in 1 second and goes, oh yeah, a lot of Uber and Lyft drivers do get our Black Card. Because they haven't been allowed to use the bathroom at gas stations during COVID, so they got a Planet Fitness membership so they could use Planet Fitness as their bathroom. This is part of this man's sales pitch to prospective customers, okay? Also, this dude looked at me and gained full confidence to say to another grown man, I know you are not going to work out here. We can't agree on anything as a country. What we can agree on is you are not going to exercise at this gym. But what you are going to do is eat horribly and have to take an emergency shit at some point. And we will have 2,500 locations across the country where you could take that shit. I don't drive for Uber or Lyft. I'm sorry if you needed a ride home. I do order a lot of Uber Eats. And I think I was the first person in Washington State to order Uber Eats because I put my name on the waiting list so I would know the exact moment Uber Eats reached Washington State. That's the fattest list I've ever been on in my entire life, is the waiting list for Uber Eats. There are skinnier sumo wrestlers than the waiting list for Uber Eats. I lived 100 yards away from a grocery store when I put my name on that list because I didn't want to wait 1 second longer than I had to stop walking those 300 feet and instead have a 19-year-old with a DUI put a burrito on my doorstep, okay? If my feet leave my front door, your tip goes down. That's my rule. And you find out exactly how fat you are when you order from Uber Eats because you just order the amount of food that you want to eat. And then they send you the amount of utensils that they think is appropriate for that amount of food. I found out I can eat as much as a Chinese family of 4 very easily, okay? Never in my life did I think I'd get bullied by a bag of chopsticks. But it showed up to my house and I'm like, Jesus, I think I'm killing the rainforest. I gotta be part of the solution at some point. I gotta make some changes. I had an embarrassing moment with an Uber Eats delivery driver because he showed up to my house and he goes, Casey, this is embarrassing for me, but I actually recognize you. And I go, it's not from the Planet Fitness bathroom, is it? And he goes, it's not from there. And I go, is it because you've seen me do stand-up comedy? And he goes, absolutely not. I had no idea you did comedy. He goes, no, it's embarrassing for me because I work with your wife. And I go, oh, that shouldn't be embarrassing. My wife is a teacher, I thought. I don't know if you two have some side night business you've been operating while I'm out of the house. And he goes, no, I work with your wife at the school, and it's embarrassing for me because my family is struggling financially. So I started driving part-time for Uber and Lyft to help make ends meet. In fact, it's so embarrassing for me, would you mind not telling your wife that I was your Uber Eats delivery driver? And I go, I can totally do that. Would you mind also not telling my wife that you were our Uber Eats delivery driver? Because there's 2 burgers in that bag, and my wife is not home. And he goes, Casey, this might be too big of a secret for me. Did I just catch you cheating on your wife? I go, buddy, it's way worse. You caught me cheating on my diet. My wife would be thrilled if I was cheating on her. At least I'd be burning calories somewhere. My wife and I were starting to feel our age a little bit. We made this decision together to reclaim our youth. We started doing drugs together recreationally. Thank you, I appreciate it. We're very cautious people though, so we started with laxatives. We snorted them, we're not nerds, okay? I told one of my friends that, he's really into drugs, and he goes, Casey, I've known you for a long time. That might be the stupidest thing you've ever said to me. He goes, don't do laxatives with your wife, do mushrooms with your wife. He goes, I do mushrooms all the time. Every time I do mushrooms, I hallucinate. I have a religious experience. When I do mushrooms, I can see God in nature. Do mushrooms with your wife. And I go, hey man, I did laxatives with my wife in a house with 1 bathroom. You want a religious experience from a drug? I saw Satan in my wife's eyes the whole night, okay? The other day I asked my wife if I have a big dick. And she said, you have a nice dick. Which is a different adjective. And in that context, I'm not even sure what that adjective means. I don't know what a nice dick is. Like, did my dick come from a good family? Does it help old ladies across the street? Has it been volunteering at a soup kitchen on the weekends? I know what it's capable of. I don't think it can work a ladle, okay? One of my friends has a dick with 9 piercings in it. Thank you. That's the right reaction. Sometimes I do this in Seattle. They're too sex positive for this joke. I agree with you. That's too many piercings. It also seems like it would be a nightmare at TSA, right? Like for both people. It's one guy's like, how many of these do I have to remove? And the other guy's like, I don't give a fuck if you're a terrorist. Just get it. Just go. Just get through. And I was like, why did you get so many piercings? That seems like too many piercings. Did you ever consider getting 0 piercings? My friend goes, I needed 1 piercing for each inch of dick. That's the most hurtful thing a friend has ever said to me in my entire life. I would have rather he ended the friendship there. But he's already in my life. I already like him. But he's a comic. I didn't believe him at first. And I was like, I don't think you really have 9 piercings, because he's a dude, he looks like a boring dad. He looks like me with a couple distinct differences. 4 to 5 distinct differences. Depending on the weather and what part of my body you start measuring from. And I go, I don't think I believe that you have 9 piercings in your dick. And so then he showed me his dick. Which in his defense, I did ask to see it. Kind of, I challenged him, which in the 90s that counted as consent, okay? When he showed me his penis, I was seated and he was standing. If you're not begging to be in that situation, that is the worst position, okay? Because I knew I was gonna see his dick. I did not know I was gonna have a multi-sensory experience. I don't know if you know what it sounds like when 9 metal objects leave an enclosed space. I'm like, where is that wind chime? It was like he was pulling a coin purse out of his coin purse. It was like he had lost a janitor's keys and he was desperately trying to fish them out. And then when he finally got it out, it was confusing to look at, because I don't know a lot about those kind of piercings, okay? I'm kind of a prude. The only one I really know is a Prince Albert, and I only know it by name. I couldn't pick it out of a lineup, you know? What that dude showed me was Prince Albert and all the King's Men, okay? Because I'm looking at this thing, and he pulls it out, he finally gets it out, and I will say this, it was not in what I would call an impressive state. So it's still very confusing. He gets it out, and I'm like, that just looks like a limp fishing rod. I thought we were gonna hang a shower curtain off of this thing. That might be 9 piercings. I don't think that's 9 inches. And so then he pulls out his phone and he sends me a text message with a picture of his penis and all 9 piercings fully erect. I don't know what a nice dick is. That's the meanest dick I've ever seen in my entire life. All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much. I'm Casey McLain.
Under the influence of barley, malt, and hops, logic spreads the word like an orthodox girl who talks a lot. Exposing your backside like halter tops, you end up assed out, blacked out, sleeping in a trash mound. That's how I had the insult to injury just to rub it in. Backwards motherfuckers I put down, but it's up to them to readjust when I need their nuts and break out. Cause I'm living my fuck you days now, and never easing up on a pimple-faced oxymoron. Your conclusion on the third rock is foregone. I've been throwing Hosman pose forearms at tacklers, coming soon like your local franchise Atticus. Who's using a golden abacus to keep track of the snakes that try to battle us, making maracas out of rattlers? Be catching amateurs, careers like hungry managers, feeding them sucker MC sandwiches, smother them in bandages when L drops a medley, press play, cause they're covered top to bottom like LA with deadly essays.
You guys are cool. We had a rough moment in there at a point, but you came around. This is a lot of pressure on you guys because this special is going to come out for free on YouTube, most likely. So you're all going to have the ability to see it, and you're going to know if you were in the front row or not. Like, you guys we got to put in because you might be the only two non-white people in this whole place. So we got to put you... We have to make sure to put you in, but otherwise, you're all fucking on the chopping block, just so you know. Did you say boo?
I suffer from the dope MC ailment. Cats be on my sack like I'm the local tree salesman, and on my back like a Jansport and the landlord. My position is paralyzed, I just couldn't stand for it. Ice grill cats magically melt. I'm the most I like the last 3 L's, and y'all just can't fuck with it. Like a chastity belt, my theme songs have to be felt, whether or not they actually sell, as if I had them manufactured and bred. Shit, the boy's too cold, need a jacket when Lou roll. Give me a wide berth and part ways like the 2 poles. Hella far apart, you know I need space, so I teleport for some R&R in Cusco. Bars real bangers, blues got crates. Rumble your whole house till the rooftop breaks. Your cruise song soft as newborns, like soda cans and fake titties do not shake.
This isn't gonna be the special, folks, so